Okay, this is the last bibliography that you will receive from me for this summer school course, which is obviously a very sad thing. Let's spend a few minutes going through this, and then I hope we will get some volunteers for presentations on one of the topics, one of the texts we have here. There's two of you here now who haven't done a presentation yet, plus Mesut, who's not here, and Sefa, who kind of failed to do his last time, so maybe we can put them together if they don't come anyway. Okay, Deus, monotheism in the modern world. Anyone remember or know what Deus means? You should bring a pen. Emre, you should always have a pen in every class. You should always have a pen. You can't turn up to a class with no pen. That's kind of not a good idea. But please remember that. One lesson for the future, always bring a pen, because you might have to write something down. Deus. Anyone remember? I probably just told you what this word means. What does that word mean? It's a Latin word, and it means God. Okay. Monotheism, well, we'll come back to that one. We've mentioned that before. Monotheism means what? One God. Okay, theos, which is obviously the same word as Deus, but theos means God in Greek. Monos means one God. So, belief in one God in the modern world. In this topic, we will examine the beliefs of some, what I've cut in brackets, in quotations, modern monotheistic religions, which have appeared during the last 500 years. Okay. For this topic, we'll be mostly using online resources. So for this topic, there's nothing on reserve in the library, and there's nothing really relevant in the textbook. This is kind of my own topic, which is outside of that. Okay. So here I've given you the URLs, but obviously you don't want to spend your time typing the URLs, getting one word letter wrong and it all coming. So you will use the online version, which has the links. Okay. So for this one, you'll be using this particular version, but I've given you it all here in case there's some kind of problem if you can't get the internet or something from Bill Kent. You might be able to still get these resources. Each of the sections below is divided up into what I've called the selection for reading, which is the holy book, and then the historical background. Now, holy book means what? What is a holy book? It doesn't mean a book with holes in it.
Like the Quran.
Yeah, like the Quran or the Bible. It's the particular book or number of books put together as one, which the people who believe that religion, Muslims or Christians in those cases, think is the Word of God in some way, is their special book. It doesn't have to be the Word of God, actually. It's just their special book, okay, that comes from God or from a prophet or something, and it contains the basis of their religion. So what you're going to be doing for this, for your essays, for the presentation, is mainly telling us a little bit about one of the holy books of these religions, okay? And to understand that, you will then have to look at the historical background. So if we just go on to Sikhism here, which is what we'll be looking at today, the holy book is the Sri Guru Granth Sahib, okay, Guru Granth Sahib, as it's sometimes usually called, okay. So there one, we've got it at the top, Sikhism, Sri Guru Granth Sahib. The selection for reading, here we have the URL, there you have the link, and obviously we've checked some of these before, or the way I've put them on has gone different colours, but they're either blue or underlined. In blue means they've got a link there, so that's one of them, and this one is the other part, okay. So that is online in English, the text or parts of the text of the Guru Granth Sahib that you must be reading for your essay or whatever it is. To understand that, Well, I will be talking about the Sikhs myself, but to understand it as well, we've got what we call historical background. It's not really historical background, it's kind of introductory stuff. And in most cases, I've got the Wikipedia article. Now, I know lots of people say, oh, you shouldn't use Wikipedia, it's very bad. Lots of your instructors probably tell you this. Don't just go to Wikipedia. And here I am saying, here's Wikipedia. But it's a useful introduction, okay? That's what it does. And I use it almost every day to find out about something or other. It doesn't mean it's the perfect solution. And we talked last week, I think, when we were discussing your research methods and so on, we talked about the problem that anyone can work on this, so it's not sort of scholarly and controlled. But it'll give us a basic introduction to the broad topic, okay? In addition to the Wikipedia article, I've given you a link to a web page about these religions. And usually the web page will be organized, will be run by believers of those religions. So this one here, Sikhs.org, I presume it's a bunch of Sikh people somewhere in India or in England or somewhere that put this website together. Okay, and they're telling the world about their beliefs. And we'll come back to that point soon. So we've got Wikipedia and we've got a relevant website as well. So that's what we have here. Name of the Holy Book, the selection you must read with the links, and then the websites that might give you some background. And the same thing on here, but set out as the URLs instead of as links, obviously, because it's printed. You can, of course, use other resources not listed here as well, as long as you cite them, as long as you refer to them in your bibliography. Okay, very important. I'm not saying these are the only things you must use. You can explore books in the library or websites to find out more information if you want. But you have to tell me what you've used. I have to know where you've got your ideas from. Okay, let's say a little bit about the four religions, the four texts and so on, a bit more again. And in the meantime, at least Emra and Asena have to be deciding which of these they'd like to do their presentations on. And you might work together or you might want to volunteer separately. We'll sort that one out. While you're thinking, okay, I'll say a little bit about these religions. And obviously in my lecture, I'll say more detail. Okay, Sikhism. The Sikhs, anyone remember where they come from? Where do they come from originally? Modern Sikhs live in various parts of the world, but most of them still live in...
Far East.
Not too far east, southeast, I suppose we might say. India, okay? Sikhism originated in what is now the northwest part of India, in India and what is now Pakistan, I suppose, an area called the Punjab. I'll say more about that later on. So this is an Indian religion, and most of them still live in what is now India, though obviously in places like Great Britain, where we had a colonial relationship with India, you get lots of Sikhs, quite a good number of Sikhs living in Britain and elsewhere as well. This is a religion which, from my perspective as an historian, is a development from an interesting context, because in that part of India, India obviously has a number of interesting religions. One of the most important religions is Hinduism, okay, in India. But obviously, further north in India, and now what we call Pakistan, obviously Islam became important in the late Middle Ages as well. And this religion grew up in a place where you had Hinduism and Islam kind of locally together. So it's not quite a mixture of the two, but it combines elements and ideas from one and the other, as well as rejecting something from one and rejecting something from the other. So it's not quite a kind of mixing up of Hinduism and Islam, but there's a kind of element of that going on, okay? Obviously, they would say it's the true religion coming from God, but from my perspective, we have to see where things come from. So this is a religion influenced by Islam and also influenced by Hinduism. So it's a special kind of Indian thing. You couldn't get that elsewhere. Mormonism, okay, the Church of Jesus Christ, the Latter-day Saints. Now, I probably mentioned this, but you probably can't remember. Mormons come from where? Anyone remember? It's something that in Turkey you'll not be familiar with. Mormons are originally from America, particularly from what is now the state of Utah. okay, in the 19th century. And that grew out of Christianity. They believe they have the true Christianity, of course, and then Catholics and Protestants say, no, that's not really Christianity. We won't go into that in too much detail, but it's a form of Christianity. It has some very different ideas from the more commonly known Christian beliefs and so on. And it's a very American religion. They believe, for example, that in the ancient times, some ancient Hebrews, some ancient Jews left Israel and eventually found their way to America. And that the modern, what we call Amerindians, the Native Americans, are really descended from these Jewish settlers. And that after Jesus Christ was crucified on the cross, before he finally went up to heaven, he paid a little visit to the Indians in America. Okay, so it's focusing on America in that way. The Baha'i faith, also 19th century, originating in Iran. Okay, so it's growing partly out of the Shia Islam that is important in Iran these days. But it's also a worldwide religion, so it's not something just focusing on Iran these days. You get people from all over the world who are Baha'is, and it's a kind of universal religion. It's trying to cover many things. And then finally, and this is an interesting one, some people would be questioning whether it should be here at all, but the Rastafarian movement, as I've called it. Okay, we associate Rastafarians with kind of Jamaica, reggae music, funny long hair and so on, dreadlocks. And I was very surprised to realize, I didn't know this, but also many Rastafarians, or most Rastafarians, or true Rastafarians, I suppose you might call them, actually have a set of religious beliefs as well. In particular, they believe that Haile Selassie, the last emperor, the last ruler of Ethiopia before they had a revolution there, was the reincarnation of God, like Jesus Christ. Okay, come God on the world, in the world, and so on. He didn't believe that himself, but that's what they believe and still believe today. So they have a set of religious ideas at the same time. So those are our four religions: Sikh religion from India, Mormonism from America, Baha'i religion from Iran, and the Rastafarian religion from Caribbean, from Jamaica and so on. Okay, but obviously occurring elsewhere in the world as well today. What have we got at the bottom? Let's see if we've got it on here as well. I presume we do. That's what I'm trying to do, these things. Yeah. A final word of warning from Davud Hodja, the skeptic. A skeptic, skeptical. We may have mentioned that. What if you're doubting, not accepting? Okay, we're not going to ask what your individual beliefs about religion are or something. I myself am skeptical about all religious belief, but here, skeptical in another sense is what I mean. Especially for the historical background sections, so especially for these parts, not so much for this bit, but for these parts especially. Okay, that Sikh website, sikhs.org we saw before, and so on. Okay, you must remember that these websites were created and maintained, kept going, by the followers of these religions, and that they believe in these holy books, and they believe that these things are the truth. Okay, just as people in Turkey believe that the Quran is the truth, and people in Western Europe largely, or many of them, believe in the New Testament and the Bible as the truth. Well, these people believe in their holy books, and they've made websites to describe that, but also to persuade people. Okay, that's what we want. If we believe something, we all believe in democracy, and we'd like to persuade other people in the world to be democratic. So we would then try and encourage them. We would persuade them. We'd try and make them think like we do. So these websites may be also a little bit like that. They're not entirely objective. That's what I'm telling you. Okay? So when you read these websites, don't just reproduce what they say. You have to think carefully about what they're trying to do, okay? Because it's not an objective website. It's not just information like a book from the library that's introducing something. It's a website created by these things. So as I've got here, be careful when reading and thinking about their contents, okay? Don't just reproduce it in your essay as if it's the truth or something, okay? At least put "they say" or "they believe," comma, and then you can tell me what it says. And that would at least cover you, but be a bit more thorough than that. And at the bottom here, I've got the link to this one, okay, should you want to find it. You can get it through various other stages, but if you want to go directly, you can type in those details. Okay, turn the page over. Once again, I hope we've all got printing on the other side. This is our third and final essay. So the rule has been, though we've had to be a bit flexible about this for some people, but the rule has been we have 3 topics. Everyone should have written the first topic essay. That means you can choose between topics 2 and 3. Now, I don't know if anyone apart from the presenters has started thinking about topic 2 essays. So, Sibel, you did your presentation 2 days ago, so you will probably write your essay about your topic, okay? So you will do this one. So if you do this one, then of course you don't need to worry about this until the final exam, where there may be a question about it or something. But primarily you've done that one already, and you'll do your essay for this one. In the case of Emre and Asena, who haven't done a presentation yet, you will do your presentation for topic 3. So you should write your essay for topic 3, because then you don't need to do extra reading. Okay, you read all this stuff, you do your presentation, then you can write the essay about this. You can do this one if you want. You can do extra work, but obviously more sensibly you would do that. So then you would probably be like that. Okay, that's the scenario. For the rest of you, the people that did their presentation up here, you now have the choice. Okay. The essay for topic 2 will be due in at the weekend. We'll talk about that later on. So in terms of choosing topic 3, you either say, am I busy now, or will I be busy in a couple of weeks' time? You can choose. Okay. So I presumably described this here less visually. You must write 2 essays for this course from the choice of 3 topics. If you decided not to write an essay for topic 2, so that's this scenario, then you must write the topic 3 essay. The essay for topic 3 must be submitted to Turnitin by Sunday the 25th of July 2010 at the latest. That'll be the deadline that I will set for this topic. Remember, if you want any help preparing your essay, blah, 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 come and see me or whatever, send me an email and so on. The usual thing here, you must do 3 things. Read and analyze the Holy Book, okay, by looking at the selection for reading. Research the historical background, looking at the websites, and then put those together, okay, and answer one of the questions below. And again, we have a choice of 2 questions. Number 1, first question. What was the reason or reasons for the emergence of the new monotheistic religions during the modern period? Choose one of the religions. You don't have to tell me about all of them. Choose Rastafarianism or choose the Baha'i faith or whatever. Why do you think that religion emerged? Where are its ideas coming from? This is a kind of but also you could do it this way. Okay? It's historical background to these ideas, but also ideas can affect ideas. Okay? One set of religious ideas can change into a new one. So it's asking you, where did this set of ideas come from? And secondly, very short question here, how moral are the new monotheistic religions? What does the word moral here mean? What does moral mean? Think of another English word. Ethical, okay? It's to do with our behavior, and it's primarily to do with our good behavior. Okay? All religions, monotheistic and polytheistic religions, in one way or another, try to control or influence the way we behave. If you're a bad boy, you will go to hell. If you're a good boy, you will go to heaven. And that's making it very simple, okay? It's not quite that simple, but that's the idea. And if you believe in that, if you really believe that you will go to hell or heaven, then most people will behave accordingly, okay? You will do the right things. You won't drink alcohol. You'll help old ladies across the street or whatever it might be to be a good person and so on. So what I'm asking you here is to look at their ideas, not just their religious ideas about God and so on, but it might be part of that, but to look at their beliefs about behavior. And we're going to talk about that. They're all in there in the websites or whatever, okay, up to a point. How do they suggest that people behave, and what are the reasons for that, and what are the controls of that, okay? And what's their moral? Are they morals that you can understand as well as we can understand, and so on, okay? So that's a slightly different kind of question. Perhaps a little bit more difficult, but interesting, I think, as well. Okay, any questions? Anything not clear? Anything you want me to explain again? So primarily, I now have to ask, let me make one of these to be mine then. So Asena and Emre, do you have any of these religions that I've briefly mentioned? We'll ask ladies first. Let's be nice and moral and do these things. Asena, is one of these would be more interesting for you, or more fun, or less boring for you to do a presentation?
Text one.
Sorry, the Sikh one. Okay, so we'll put you here. Now, Emre, either you can join Asena, and then you have a team. And so far we've had 2 people in each presentation. You don't have to do that. Well, she seems like a very nice young lady. You can work well together, I'm sure. But if you think, oh, why did she choose that? I really want to do Mormons. I want to learn about these guys from Utah or something. Then you can choose another one. But if you,
I can do.
okay, so is that okay? So we'll put you both down here. Okay, and we'll have a chat. We'll have a little meeting at some point in the next week or so. We'll talk to you during the break. But we'll have at least one meeting in my office to start planning the presentation. We'll discuss how the other people did their presentations and whether they were bad or good, and how we can make yours better. Ha ha ha. You see, I couldn't do that with the first people because there were no presentations to discuss. But now Mesut and Sefa are obviously Yok, not here. So I'll try and get them sorted for one of the other texts together. We'll see what they do. Okay. I will start talking soon about Sikhism, so obviously take notes, listen carefully to what I say. If you've got questions, you can ask, and it will help you understand the text and so on. But we'll work together on that as well. Okay. All right, well, that was a fairly painless process, and we have about 20 minutes left, so let's make a start. Unless there's any questions, anyone got a question or problem, anything not clear? Remember, I hope you will end up at the end of this topic still believing what you believe now, but if you decide to become Mormons or Rastafarians or something, then that's obviously your own business and so on. I can minimize this for now, and let's call up the screen. Okay, are you all ready? Got your pens and papers ready? Monotheism in the modern world. This is our topic, this is what we'll be doing, and this is from a slightly earlier version of the presentations. I've got a separate file for Rastafarians, but don't be worried, we'll be having a little presentation about them maybe next week as well. Okay, before we look at the religions in a little bit of detail, before we actually look at these guys and their beliefs, I think we need to begin by looking at the words we're using. It's always good to begin with the words. It's always good to begin with the concepts and make sure we understand them. So we've answered this question already in a very brief way today. What is monotheism? Monotheism is one God. The belief that there is some supernatural being, entity, whatever it might be, and only one. In the past, for most of human history, and prehistory, people were, in fact, have been polytheistic. Most human beings that have ever lived, if they believe in religion anyway, have believed probably in more than one God. Okay? Monotheism, relatively, in terms of historical development, human development, is more recent. Okay? You might say it's better, therefore, that somehow they've gone and become better. It's just different in my perspective. And obviously historical reasons influence each religion and they spread and so on. We won't go into that now. But the basic idea is that there is one God. Now, most of you will be familiar with the Muslim God, Allah, okay? But many of the features of the belief in one God in different forms of Islam is more or less the same in the other monotheistic religions. There are significant differences, but primarily there are big similarities. So what can we say? Give me some ways to describe one God. What are the characteristics of one God? What makes the one God of Christianity and maybe Islam and Judaism, Zoroastrianism as well, or whatever? What features perhaps do all these gods share that makes them similar?
Unique.
Right, so firstly, the emphasis on monos, on one, okay? The stress that there is just one, there is one God, okay? Many religions feel the need to stress that, okay? To emphasize that the other gods that you believe in are wrong, there is only one God. So we want to stress that point at the start. That's not just part of the definition, it's a very important part of that. But what else then? What else can we say about the one God? There's only one God, but, Jamberg again?
And the creator of the everything.
Okay. In most cases, the monotheistic God is the creator God, is the source of everything. Okay, good and bad, of course, but ultimately the creator God. That's very important as well. And most monotheistic religions have that belief in one way or another. Bashka, anything else can we say?
Also, punisher decides punishments.
That's true, I suppose. Again, according to our behavior, according to what we do, God or the system he has set up will deal with us accordingly. I don't know what we could say about that. We can put punisher down here, I suppose. But you have God and humans, and it's a kind of relationship in two ways and so on. Now go on, ladies first.
Maybe invisible, like for example, in the past, people believe lots of God like sun, but one God.
Yeah, I know. No, invisible isn't quite the right word, because invisible just means you can't be seen, but you're trying to say something more than that. It's kind of, we might say, formless. It doesn't really have a body. We think of the world in a physical way because we are physical beings, and most modern ideas of God don't give God a body. Okay? If you read the very early parts of the Old Testament, the Jewish parts of the Bible, it will talk about God as almost a more physical being. Now, maybe modern Jews, I don't know, would say, no, but we don't believe that anymore. That's just kind of the way they represented it then. But if you look at it from an historical perspective, the earliest idea is that somehow God was physically a being. Okay? Mormons think that there is God the Father, and he has a body. We'll come all to that maybe next on Friday or whatever. But in general, yes. Modern ideas, in Islam especially, it's very important, but also for many Christians so on, that God doesn't have a body. It's not a physical being. It's something beyond the physical world. So we can say formless without a body in that sense. Okay, spiritual thing. Jamberg?
They believe in life after the earth life.
Well, that kind of relates to this. That's afterlife and thing. Let's stick with God now. That's more to do with you and me as humans and our relationship with God. Okay, but in terms of God itself, let's not say himself, because that formless means that it's not a human gender, male or female, and so on.
Most powerful.
Yes. The technical term is omnipotent, which means all-powerful. Okay. All-powerful. Potent, okay, means powerful or strength and so on. Omni there means all. So God is the power over everything, okay? We can have a few other omnis here. Omnipresent means the one God is everywhere, is in all places, is present, is aware of everything, okay? Not just the power to do things in a way, but the power to be everywhere. And omniscient means all-knowing. Okay, knowing everything. Scient there, like in science, to scio, to know. Okay, so God is all-powerful, God is everywhere, God knows everything. God is the creator of all things, okay, and as we said, the kind of punisher of humans and so on. God has no body, no form, and so on. Connected, one other thing we haven't mentioned yet. 45.5 years ago, I was born. Okay, 46 years ago, well, I was in my mother's womb or whatever. 50 years ago, there was no David. Okay, a very sad world without me. But at a certain point, I was born. And at a certain point in the future, unless technology advances very quickly, I will no longer exist. Okay, except, it looks very sad there, I love that. But we all live, we're born, we live, and we die. Okay, that's the reality of the physical existence. Now, whether we go to an afterlife or not, it's obviously not a physical life like we have now. Is that the same for the one God? Was Allah born? Will Allah die? No. Okay. So the other point, as well as having no body in a physical way, there is, we can say, one God is eternal, okay, or even timeless, outside time, okay, in that sense. Okay, so there are some aspects, some elements of monotheistic religions. Some of them emphasize some things more than others, okay? For example, the uniqueness, the important point. Now, we would describe Christianity, most people would say it is a monotheistic religion, okay, there is God. But I know that many people who are not Christians say, well, what's this Trinity? What's this Trinity thing? God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit. Okay, it sounds a bit like three gods or something. Now, what is that? Okay, now I won't go into that now, but that is meant to be one God with different persons, different personalities. So, okay, when I'm with you, there's only one David. There's David the teacher, and I do certain things and have a certain function when I'm here. When I go home, I'm David the husband and the baba with my kids or whatever, and I do different things. I don't talk about this stuff. I play football and read comics and things like that. And when I go to the library, I don't know, I'm David the library director, we talk about different things. They're different parts of me. So I suppose, this is a simple way of putting it, the Trinity is an attempt to say one God, but with different functions. But then you might say, well, it's already breaking things, making it more complicated, it's not proper. It's not really unique in the way that Allah is. You might debate that, okay? I'm sure many people do. I'm not going to go into that now. But what I'm saying is, all of these are aspects of the idea of one God. Some religions stress some more than others. Okay? Like we said, the idea of God without a body isn't something which we see so much in, for God the Father in Mormonism, for example, things like that. Okay? But more or less, these are the main features that are characteristic, common of one God, whatever it might be. In addition, most monotheistic religions are revealed religions, and they have prophets. Revealed religion, or we can say revelation. Now, what does that mean? Anyone understand what I'm getting at here? It's a very important point. If you reveal something, what do you do? Well, yeah, no, something's appearing, but how? To reveal something. Okay, what's behind my back? What have I got behind my back now? Sorry? No, what I'm holding something in my hands. That's why I've got what am I holding behind my back? A board marker, probably, and I will now reveal to you that you were right. Well done. Full marks or whatever, okay? To show something, okay? So a revealed religion is a religion which has been shown from one person to another, okay? Or from one thing. And usually go like this. There is God, and God reveals the truth to a certain person, or it can be more than one person, but usually one person especially, the special one, which is the prophet. Okay. For you, obviously, the most important prophet is the prophet Muhammad. He received religion from God and from archangels and so on. Okay. And then the job of that prophet is to then show that truth to other people. Polytheistic religions, at least as we know about them now, don't emphasize revelation as much. Okay? But in all of the main monotheistic religions, you have the idea of God and heaven and so on. You have an idea of a prophet or special person. Okay? For example, in Christianity, Christians don't think that Jesus is a prophet because Jesus is God. Okay? Jesus is God on earth, part of God in a physical being. So they don't use the word prophet for Jesus because Jesus is God. But in Islam, Jesus Christ, Isa, is a prophet. Okay? So for them, we don't use the word prophet, we can say special person or something, but an intermediary. Okay? And he came, God sent part of himself, sent himself to earth to communicate directly with people, to persuade them of his truth. Okay? So it's not in a prophet way, it's a bit different, but it's the same basic process. God, special person, and then that person communicates with the rest of us and tries to say, this is the truth that I've got from God or from Angel Gabriel or whatever it might be. And this revelation, this religion, these ideas, and what the prophet received, okay, where is that information? They're speaking it, they're telling people. That's what Muhammad did. He spoke to people in Arabia and so on. Jesus was speaking to people in Israel at that time and so on. But we're not there. We can't go back in time. How do we find out the revelation? How do we discover that truth in their belief? Holy books. They also all have, in different ways, holy books. And again, roughly, we can set it out like this, but it's not perfect for every single one of these things. That God, or an angel, or whatever, made a revelation to the prophet. This is the revelation. And that, in some way, is in the Holy Book. Okay? So it's kind of the Word of God, as some people would say. It's the truth because it's come from God. And God is all of these things. So the Word of God is all of those things as well. So the holy books are often very, very important. They're not just a book, they are the words that have come indirectly through the prophet, in a sense, from God. So they're very important. Christianity is a bit different here. We'll finish by just saying a little bit about this. The Bible is the holy book of Christians. Do you know how it's made up? What's the parts of the Bible? There's two main parts, and then they break up into little parts. But what are the two main sections of the Bible? Do we know?
Old
Right, the Eski Ahit and Yeni Ahit. In English, the Old Testament and the New Testament. Okay? Who wrote the Old Testament? Where does the Old Testament come from? Is it just an old man or something? No. Who wrote the Old Testament? Many different people wrote or revealed or whatever it is. We won't say wrote necessarily, but where does the Old Testament come from? Why is it called old? Do we know? It is, in fact, more or less, not exactly, it is in fact the holy book of the Jews. And it was created over many, many centuries, different parts, by ancient Jewish prophets and writers and things like that. Okay? And the Torah, the very oldest part, okay, they even believe is from Moses, was God communicating the truth to Moses, okay, and part of that. But it's a mixture of things. But the Old Testament is technically, in a translation into English or whatever, it's the Jewish holy book, okay. Who wrote the New Testament?
It's like a dialogue between Jesus Christ and his followers.
Well, there are dialogues in it, but there are... Before we get to the Jesus bit, okay, well, we've got the important bit, followers of Jesus, okay. The main thing here is that Christians wrote the New Testament, okay. Jews wrote the Old Testament, Christians wrote the New, and then about in the 3rd century, they decided to put them both together and call it the Bible. And of course, they think this is the real truth, and this bit just kind of points forward to that. Says that Jesus is coming and things like that, okay? But this is here. And here you have the lives, different versions of the life of Jesus, okay, which is kind of what you're referring to. You also have letters written by early Christians who lived after Jesus was gone, okay, and other things as well. So it's a mixture of things. There's many different things in here, not as many as there, and that's that, okay? And put those two together, and that's the Bible, okay? But this is not the Word of God, okay? They don't claim that any of the New Testament was revealed by God to Jesus. It has God's words because Jesus is God and he's saying things to people, but it's not the same as the Quran, which is the revelation from God, from the Archangel Gabriel to the Prophet Muhammad, and now set down in Arabic. It's very different, okay? Some of this, the Jews believe, is revelation. The Christians may or may not believe that in different ways, okay? So, they have holy books. In general, they contain some kind of revelation, or sometimes, for this one, we might say inspiration. God inspired. God helped people to have those ideas. He didn't tell them exactly, but he kind of came into their brains and made them think of those things. Okay. So mostly, in many of them, revelation coming from God in the holy books. And we sometimes use this word, we've had it before. Remember Jacques Benin Bossuet, the word scripture just means writing, but we usually use it with a big S to mean holy writing, religious writing, scriptures, another word that we use for these as well. And definitely the Sikhs have a holy book, which we'll begin to look at after the break, the Guru Granth Sahib, okay? But that's got an interesting history. That's the writings of their different, what we call prophets, their different gurus. The Mormons, well, they take the Bible, because they're kind of Christians. They have the Bible, but they say bits of it have been changed, so they change it again, in a way. Or they say they take it back to the original. And their prophet, okay, Joseph Smith Jr., also has his own holy book, which he says he's copied from these ancient tablets, which is called the Book of Mormon. We'll talk about that maybe on Friday or next week. Okay. The Baha'is don't really have a holy book. Their early prophets, their early founders wrote things down, sometimes with revelation, and they collect those all together, but they're not put together in one single book in a way. And the Rastafarians don't have a really fixed book, but we've got a couple of things which are relevant to religious ideas amongst black people in Jamaica at that time. So we can generalize, we can make general comments about these religions, but also we have to understand they're not all the same. Okay? Holy books for Islam, it's not the same as the Bible, it's not quite the same as the Book of Mormon, and so on. But these in general are the points. One God with some or all of these features, okay? Usually some kind of revelation, the ideas have come from God in some way, usually with a prophet, a special person, and then these ideas are contained in some kind of writing, in some kind of texts. Okay, 11:31, I've been talking for too long, I love to talk. Let's stop there and see you all in 10 minutes.